Christiane. Hi, how's it going? You want to say hi to everybody and just tell us where you are right now?
Hello. Hi, everyone. Hi. My
Hi.
name is Jan. I'm in Toronto. I'm from
Oh, you're
Canada.
back home.
Yes. Yeah.
Welcome home. You've had quite a lot of adventures.
I have. Yes. Yeah. It's been great.
Thank you. And Sonia, you're muted.
Yep. Hello. Hi, it's good to be back. I missed the group, and so I wanted to be here today to reconnect. It's awesome to be journeying on your own, but there's something about when you do it in a group and under the same purpose, same intention.
Yeah. Thank you, Sonia. Thanks for joining us. And Sharon?
I'm from Michigan. And so, I mean, I can repeat what I've said before if it's important. I've just been interested in shamanism now for a few years and stumbled across you, Scott, and so it's been great. And I recently was journeying for something that I wanted to discover myself. And I wanted to ask you, I just go to YouTube and grab, Sandra Ingerman has a 30-minute drumming session on there. And it did not work for me for some reason. I always can journey really easy. And the next time I went to do it, I looked it up and it literally said AI in front of it.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I thought that makes sense why I couldn't journey. I mean, do you agree?
I can't say anything except that I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's the normal one I always go to. And for some reason it had either been changed or someone else copied it. And that's the one that came through when I, just did my quick search. But I could not believe it that literally. And so I was like, why is it? And I told my husband the next morning, I was like, it was the hardest struggle ever. Like I could not get through. So I thought that was bizarre. I don't know if you've had any experience with that, but I thought, wow, if that's any indication of what I have no idea why it would have been changed or why it said that. But I was like,
yeah,
wow.
I have no idea why it would be an AI type of thing, except that maybe somebody thought that they could replicate it through AI.
Yeah, maybe. So I mean, yeah. So I don't know. So that was an experience just in itself or whatever. But and also one more thing, Scott, I was listening obviously this week to your summit that you shared with us. Thank you so much for letting us listen in. I appreciated knowing about that summit and loved your interview. And every time I listen to you, I think I need to learn a whole lot more from you. There's so much to learn about this. So
thanks, Sharon. I appreciate that. That was really good. It was fun to participate in that. I liked Anne a lot. She's really sweet. And what's actually really funny is I was just on a 2-week kayaking trip on the Nepali coast, nature immersion. This is the first time I'm back in front of a screen in a while, kind of acclimating to the electronic world still.
Yeah.
And the last day in the morning when we were getting picked up at Polehale, which is the kind of end of the Nepali coast where cars can access, we woke up pretty like first light, and there was a rainbow, and a pod of dolphins came by.
Okay.
And then my daughter and I jumped in the water and snorkeled out to them.
Wow.
It was funny because then they started swimming back down the Nepali where we had just kayaked in from the day before. And all of a sudden we're swimming we're like a half mile offshore. We're like, hey, maybe we should swim back now.
Wow, you guys are good swimmers.
We had fins.
Okay.
And we had dolphins to motivate us.
Wow.
But it was like, we're a little far now. I think we better swim back. There were other kayaks in the water. But we were kind of sick of kayaking, so we were like, oh, we should grab the boat. We're like, no, let's just jump in and grab the fins. They're not that far out there. And then they kept swimming away.
Oh my gosh, what an adventure. Yeah, glad you made it back safe.
Yeah, it was fun. There were other kayaks who would have given us a lift back. Actually, Somebody said, oh, you're far out. You want to lift back? We're like, no, we'll swim. We're good. We feel good.
That's the life. Isn't that the life, Scott? Oh my.
Yeah. So the connection with the nature wisdom is really important. And that's part of, the grounding it into physical reality. So one of the things that's really important for us is we can be inspired in the spiritual world. We can have intention, but how do we translate that into action? Right? I mean, if I didn't jump in the water, I wasn't going to swim with the dolphins. I would have been like, oh, I saw the dolphins, but I didn't get to connect as closely with them. We were at a respectful distance from them. But there's difference being in the water and hearing their sonar than when you're on the land and seeing them jump. I mean, it's still great to see them from a boat or on land, but when you actually hear and feel their sonar, it's a different experience. So a lot of it is about that, being able to translate our intentions into actions, being able to ground our spiritual guidance and our spiritual experiences. Because it really is, shamanism is an experiential art. It's not a mental endeavor. It's an experiential art. And it's grounded in life experience. This is for tens of thousands of years, human beings have used shamanism to know important things about survival and connection in the world. So that's important when we go into the spirit world, that we do have a clear purpose in doing so, and that we're able to have a reason for doing it and to ground that reason. So yeah, thanks, Sharon.
Mm-hmm.
I also wanted to mention, if you do need a drumming track, there is one on my website. Now, I redid part of my website, and it's right there under, I think, the Learn Shamanism page at the bottom. I think it's Learn Shamanism, How To, or Drumming. You go down there, you'll find it. There's a link to the drumming track and a video, and all that stuff is down there. So, yeah, thanks. Melanie, Ryan, nice to see you guys. Just share a little with everybody.
Good to see you too. Well, I've been doing this for a couple years now, and then Ryan decided to join doing journey work and stuff like that. And right now we're trying to move to Hawaii, so we sold our house, but the house we were gonna buy fell through. So now we're living in our trailer and just traveling across the US till we find something in Hawaii.
You're doing the nomadic lifestyle for a little while.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's good. It's been good for teaching us how to be more conservative with the resources, which, is important in Hawaii on the island. And then it's also kind of got the adventure bug, we're going to get that out before we go find a property to kind of grow our own food and do that whole thing for a while.
Yeah, beautiful. Right on. Well, I'm really good to see you guys. It's been a minute, or more than a minute since we saw you. So it's really great to have you on the phone.
Thank you.
Thanks. So today we're going to be journeying. Well, today what we're doing today is Healing for the Web of Life. And the point of doing the Healing for the Web of Life meetings and journeys is, I think, as Sonia and someone else was saying, I think the intention of working together in a group amplifies our individual attention. So when we work individually, we can have a positive effect. When we work together in a group, our intention is amplified. And the purpose for me in holding these meetings is that we can do things in the physical world, but we also have to change in the spirit world in order to help the web of life come back into balance, in order to help the web of life, help humans step back into our roles as caretakers of the web of life. What's required from that is a shift in consciousness, right? As Melanie was mentioning earlier, we're learning to be a little bit more mindful with our resources. Okay, that's a shift in consciousness that's being brought about through some circumstances that you're in. And that's just one example of a shift in consciousness. And so when we experience things through shamanic journey work, it's a visceral experience. It's experiential. We feel it in our bones just as if we had a waking life experience. Okay. It imprints our brain in the same way, and our nervous systems in the same way as our ordinary reality experiences do. In fact, deeper than our ordinary reality experiences do. It imprints our brain and nervous systems in the way that our early childhood life, ordinary reality life experiences did. Okay, and so the power of that is that we can effect immense change both personally and for others. And while we're doing Healing for the Web of Life, if we shift our own consciousness into how can I be a better caretaker and custodian of the web of life. And that becomes imprinted in me, where I'm also removing the imprint of some possibly dysfunctional or less than optimal functioning imprints that I had. That helps shift my consciousness. Okay. And then I can lead by example, and I can help other people shift their consciousness in a positive way. And once the consciousness shifts, then our actions shift, right? If my consciousness is from a place of, well, it doesn't matter what I do, whether I litter or not litter or dispose of waste properly, doesn't make a difference. It's going to be very hard to convince that person to be mindful about how they dispose of their waste, right? But once their consciousness shifts into something more like, well, I'm a custodian of the web of life, and it's important that, I use things mindfully, and when I dispose of things, I dispose of things in a way that my waste goes on to nurture another part of the web of life. I don't really have to do so much inspiring to that other person. They've already shifted, and they're smart enough to figure it out. Yeah, sure, you can say, oh, hey, when you put your compost grinds in this way around your plants, it helps your plants to grow. But that's just sort of like incremental knowledge. The big shift happened already in the consciousness. So this is why I run these Healing for the Web of Life meetings. Okay. And today our topic is going to be moving from intention to action. Okay. Moving from intention to action. And that's a really important thing, because we can have positive intention. But if we're unable to action our intention, then we can't make so much of a impact on the world around us, right? So maybe I have an intention to help everybody to shift, but if I don't actually take the action steps of sending out the invites and making a Zoom link and setting up a time for us to meet, we're not going to do it. Okay, so that's part of what we're working on today. And Aya, I see that you got your audio working. Hi, welcome.
Good afternoon. I am Iya Tahira, living in St. Croix, Virgin Islands, and I just tuned in to your network to see what kind of work you were doing. My studies, I'm initiated in elder practice in the Daga people's shamanic training, and work with Michael Mead, and influenced by Dr. Alberta. In fact, studies with him still. And Malodoma Somei, I don't know if you remember him. He died, my ancestor in the ancestral land. So that was my initiation into shamanism. So I wanted to see what you had to offer, and, pretty much on different platforms. So greetings to all, and thank you. And just listen in for the first time. Thank you.
Greetings. Thank you, Ia, for joining us from the Virgin Islands. Thank you. Appreciate you joining us today. And so, as I was explaining earlier to Beverly, that when we journey to the lower world, we use sound. So usually I'll use a drum. Today I'm using clap sticks. So that's going to be the driving sound that drives us down to the lower world. And when we go into the lower world, we meet our power animal, and we ask for the healing or the intention of the journey to be performed by our power animal. And so I'm assuming that since you have studied that, you understand what I mean by journeying to the lower world. Yeah, I got that. So, but if you have any questions, let me know. Okay, just give me a thumbs up because I can hear you. Okay, I got a thumbs up. And hi, Noel. Nice to see you. Hi, if you just unmute yourself and tell us where you're from and how you got here. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay, sorry. So I'm tuning in from New Orleans, and I'm sorry. I was saying I'm sorry I'm late. I just finished my work day. So I'm an acupuncturist, and I have some experience with shamanism, being around shamanism or participating in an ayahuasca ceremony. I've also worked with a shaman directly one-on-one before. And I really just liked Scott's approach, and I love nature and like really think that the world could use some healing. And I love this idea of taking our intentions into the world with action. It's something I really need. So I'm really happy to be here.
Great. Thank you, Noelle. And so, as I was explaining to Beverly earlier, and it's no worries, you're welcome to drop in, in the middle of the calls. So that's fine. Don't worry about being arriving after our starting time. We all have other ordinary reality commitments like jobs. And so that's also something that's very important to share, is that we have to fit our spiritual practice within the context of the modern world, so it can be applicable day to day in the modern world. And I know some people are like, oh, we have to do this, but if you have to choose between your job and coming to me, you got to go to your job. So I maintain it very flexible for everybody. That's why I record everything, and so it's always okay to drop in the middle. And if we're busy, then just be on mute, and it doesn't disturb anybody. So anyways, I was explaining to Beverly earlier the difference between how my approach and what happens with ayahuasca is that ayahuasca will kind of reach up and grab you, and the psychoactive compounds within the plant itself will induce the shamanic journey state. And when the psychoactive compounds wear off, the journey ends. Whereas what we do when we're using the drum or clapsticks or other types of rhythm and sound, we voluntarily induce that state at any time that we want to, and we end when we want to, which is really convenient if you have other obligations, right? Like I have a daughter that I drive to school. It would be kind of hard to take ayahuasca and journey every day and then get her to school on time and back from school on time. It would, these things don't really mesh very well, or to go to your job. So when we use the drum or rhythmic sonic driving, rhythmic inducement of the shamanic journey state, then what happens is we can do this work every day. It can do it for 15 minutes, and it just becomes something that I can do and do regularly, and it doesn't take a toll on my body the way that some of those other compounds do, because they are powerful substances that can be liver toxic, and they can sometimes over time be quite depleting to people. And I just want to check in, Noelle, if I say to journey to the lower world and meet your power animal, do you know what that means? Have you seen my video?
Yes, I actually have. I've seen it, and I've done 2 journeys already. Yeah.
And you've met your power animal?
Yes.
Great. Okay, awesome. That's great. Thank you. Okay, so we're all here on the same page, which is wonderful. And so the journey today is going to be, how do I move from intention to action in a way that benefits the web of life or enhances my role as a caretaker and guardian of the web of life, custodian of the web of life. Okay, so what we're going to do is, when I start with the clapsticks, you're going to go to your starting place, and then you're going to go down and descend to the lower world, get to the lower world, meet your power animal, and then ask your power animal to share with you guidance, healing and guidance about that journey question. How do I move from intention to action so that I can better step into my role as caretaker and guardian, custodian of the web of life? Okay. And you can also ask for any personal healing to be done that will help you step into that role more fully. Okay, everybody got that? So after the journey, when we come back, we're going to take a few minutes, and everybody will be able to journal. And after we take that short break, then we're going to come back and we're going to share in the group about what we were each shown. So, all right, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and start. So just go ahead and get comfortable, maybe put on an eye mask. Okay, welcome back, everybody. If you have finished journaling, come on back and join us on the screen. If you still need some more time, that's okay. You can continue to journal while other people begin to share. So who'd like to share first about what they were shown in this journey? Do I have a volunteer? Yeah, go ahead, Sharon.
I can. Yeah. So I entered through water, which I don't know if that was just because of your visual of talking about swimming with the dolphins or not, but I do love water, and I've entered water before. And so it was a beautiful, clear water with a waterfall I could see flowing off into the side of it. And I just dove into the center of that and got right into it. And so, but the first thing I met was a human, not a power animal. And so I right away just asked for a power animal, and the person just kept talking to me anyway, even though whatever, she said it was octopus. And the person I've never met before, but she's related to a friend of mine, and she has deceased, and she never left. Like, she never left. And I tried to go back to so it was octopus, she said, that I heard. And so the octopus, I didn't feel like I connected really well with him, but so I didn't know, I couldn't tell that I was getting her or the octopus energy. But the bottom line was the octopus was there. I said, what are you here to tell me? And he's like, you've got 8 arms, do more and talk less.
So, there you go. That sounds like you connected with octopus.
Okay. All right, good. And then it was just an overwhelming, do everything with love, do everything with love. If you're doing everything with love, you're doing something more than it does matter. And so anyway, and then I got into some personal things, and so whatever. So I like to communicate to the dead, Scott. I feel like when they die, I really want to talk to them because I feel like they've crossed over. And that's what I always end up doing in journeys. I always want to reach that energy of a dead person. So I did. I literally asked to reach Sinead O'Connor. I was like, if she's here, I want to talk to her. And they were like, yep, she's over there. And she's very angry, very, very angry. Her energy was very, very dark and very, very angry. So I gave her a rose to soften it, and she was okay. And then I just asked her, I said, are you coming back with your talented voice again? And she said, no, she's not. So that's just, but then it was like, don't even discuss this. And I probably already said more than, I mean, it really felt like I'm not supposed to even mention that. So
that's okay to mention it. It's fine to mention it.
Yeah.
I would say that working with the dead and the deceased or the dying and psychopump and crossing spirits is a very specialized form of shamanism. Okay. So anyone who does psychopump work or working with the dead also does shamanic work as a general rule in the shamanic realms. But not everybody who practices shamanism will work with psychopump and helping to cross trap spirits. It's something we get into in the first 2 weeks of our advanced training. And pretty much throughout all the levels of the curriculum that I teach, all 6 courses, psychopump is the only thing where I have people ask, is this something I should learn to do? Everything else, everybody learns all of it. But when we get to psychopump, I explain it, and I explain the basics of it. We do a lot of preparation for it. But then I have everybody do the journey. Is it right for me to do this at this time? And some people get a strong yes. Some people get a yeah sometimes. And some people get a no, don't do this. Because it is their special preparations and precautions and strengthening that has to happen. You have to be empowered and feel full of power in the moment, right? We all go through our cycles of power. Our power waxes and wanes over time, by the day, by the hour, by the time of day, by the events in our life will influence how our power waxes and wanes. And it's not something to do when we're in a waning phase of power. You have to feel, in a very full state of power to be doing that work safely and effectively. Doesn't mean you can't still see it. Lots of people see dead spirits or spirits of the deceased, but it's hard to interface with them effectively if you're not filled with power and you don't know what you're doing. And what ends up happening is they will follow you and talk to you and kind of knock on that door. And that can be disruptive, right? Everything is about what the energy that you expend, right? So your guidance, you have 8 arms, talk less, do more, right? So do your energy about doing, use your energy for doing, not as much talking. That is basically the guidance you're getting. Well, if you're spending time with the deceased, that's energy and time that's being used there. But is it the most effective, right? And if they're coming through unannounced, like I had a student a number of years ago, really lovely woman, a young woman in her early or mid 20s, and she'd grown up extremely open and sensitive to the deceased spirits, to the point where she'd go into the store and waiting in line and feel a tap on her shoulder, be like, what? And it was a spirit there, not a human. Well, that's really disruptive, especially for a young person who doesn't have the life experience to contextualize that. And so we worked together to get her to be able to say, hey, you know what? I'm not available right now for this. Because what happens is if we keep opening that doorway, it's like you're holding up a sign saying, hey, this person sees us. Go over and talk to them and ask them for help, right? And that can be overwhelming, right? Because a lot of times spirits that are trapped in the middle world especially are in need of help and assistance. And is that the best use of your time and energy day by day? Is that how we're most effective? So that's something that, you know, if you decide at some point in the future to take some of the coursework with me, we'll get into that in a lot of detail. But I wanted to address that just a little bit to say, you know, maybe that's something you're called to do, but you have to set up very specific boundaries when you do that work. It's important to have very clear boundaries with that work, because once you open that doorway, there's a lot of demand. Let's just put it that way. It's like, you know, when they have that sale and like 300 people line up, that's kind of what happens when you open that doorway. And that can be overwhelming. So you have to have very clear boundaries with that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Thanks, Sharon. Anything else that you want to add?
I mean, other things because the person's name was Betty that showed up, I started asking her some personal questions, but I'll just leave it at that because So it was interesting.
Yeah, and if you do decide that you want to join one of the classes, we have, if you can make it to Kauai, we have a retreat coming up September 13th to 22nd.
Okay.
And if you want to do online, starting next week, we're doing the Fundamentals of Shamanism class online starting on August 9th.
Yeah, and I saw that we're flying out of the country August 9th, so we're at a conflict, but
probably not that day.
This time. So yeah, another time, hopefully.
Yeah, well, hopefully you can make it to Kauai, or you can hop on the next one, or you can join the self-paced training where you do it by video, and then you can join the next live classes. So if you want to start self-paced, you do that, and then you just hop into the next time we do the live classes.
Okay, thanks, Pat.
In perfect time. Thanks, Sharon. Okay, who'd like to share next about their journey? Go ahead, Sonia.
Okay. When I went to the lower world, I felt versus saw my power animal. Usually I see them in a silhouette or some shadow, but I felt the presence of my power animal. But instead of my power animal being with me the whole time, it was more like a healer guide showed up and was with me. And I allowed it, I accepted. I wanted to know what the healer guide had to say to me and how the healer guide would take me through this journey. So I went through, it took me through 2 doors. I saw the shape of the doors and it took me through 2 doors. And then I saw an eye. You know me with my symbols. I saw an eye.
You're making me laugh.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always with my symbols. I don't see clear pictures or nice waters or anything like that. I see symbols. So it was a big eye, almost like if it was the 3rd eye, but it was the eye. And then flowing out of the eye was an indigo color. It was like a flow of energy coming out through the eye and an indigo color. And then after that was visible for maybe a minute, I felt myself dance versus saw myself dance, but I can feel myself dancing because I was like letting go. I was like, weed, this is good. And then in the middle of the dance, I paused because I saw an arrow pointing up, and there was a flow of yellow flowing up, a color of yellow flowing up with the arrow. And then I got extremely hot. And I'm in the basement, so it is not hot in the basement. And I got very, very hot that I was sweating. My heart started to beat fast. I was short of breath. And it was very, very hot. And so it's like I automatically put my hands forward, and I started like the healing, and I'm getting goosebumps. I started like allowing, I don't know, it's like a healing through me, cooling things off. And I just kept going with the healing, kept going with the cooling, that I got very, very cold. I felt very cold. But the healing was good because I saw a calmness. I saw a blue, like everything's calming down, everything's quieting, everything's like in balance, in place. And then the eye came up again, like, you're done. And then the door, like, get out of here and leave, you're done. And then in that moment, the journey was ending. It was like perfect timing.
I love when that happens, when it's just synchronistic.
It was perfect timing. I'm like, okay, this is it. So when I started the journey, I did keep repeating to myself, intention to action in the healing, in the web of life. So it was more like, open your eyes, the heat. I mean, we're experiencing extreme heat all over the world, and I was not thinking of that. And it's just hitting me now. There's extreme heat all over the world. And I was being used as a tool to help cool things down. And then it's like everyone's energy from other places were synchronous. I was in sync with it, and we were all cooling things down. And I'm getting goosebumps. So that was my journey.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it's funny because right before you said that, that last part about the warming of the planet and the cooling of the planet, I wasn't thinking about that at all. And then that popped into my head, and then you said that just a moment afterwards. So it's very, yeah. And the other thing that pops into my mind as you share that is that when a person is overheated or a planet is overheated, we get kind of grumpy, and it comes out in terms of conflict too, right? You can say, oh, that person's really hot, they run hot, they're volatile, right? And we've been living in times where there is a lot of polarization and a lot of conflict rather than a lot of peace. And so by cooling things down, it will also not only help environmentally, it will also, and as far as sustainability and resources for people so people can live better, but it will also help potentially calm down the amount of polarization and conflict that is there, and hopefully help us to work more collaboratively and, in a village style, you could say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So thanks, Sonia. I love the images you get. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, who would like to share about their journey next? Yeah, go ahead, Christiane.
So I was shown a big rolling pin. and I didn't understand. So I asked, I'm not a pie baker, and it was just like huge, like a baker's. And then he said, no, people need different rollers. And I'm going, rollers. And then I said, well, I don't get it. And then he was talking about rolling out, like after activity, like a foam roller. And I do this a lot, rolling out. Anyway, so he just said, different people need different rollers. So I said, okay. So I'm just like, I don't know what that really is. And then I saw the night with the very, very small moon. And then he said, people need way more rest.
Mhm.
And then I said, okay. And then he started making jokes about me and my work. So yeah, there was just some personal stuff about my job. So, and then he was just telling me, keep cleaning, because I've just been doing a lot of cleaning in my apartment. So yeah.
Well, I would imagine after going on such a round the world adventure that
Yeah.
you come back with a different perspective on the things that were at home.
Yeah.
I think I'll share what pops into my head when you say different people need different rollers, is that different people need different tools.
Uh-huh.
Right. So it's the roller's just there because that's a tool that you use often personally. So different people need different tools. So when we move intention to action, different people need different tools to help them move into action. Right. Different people need different forms of support in that way. And yes, rest. People do need more rest because the more we rest, the more we do self-care, the less we push, the more we accept, the more that we're able to listen, harmonize with, join, and move into right action. It's when we keep constantly pushing and we're not resting and we're trying to force the situation into, what we think we need or what our predetermined objectives are, that we end up actually not being able to fulfill. It's counterproductive. Right? As opposed to just listening and engaging with what's there and moving in right action, i.e. different people need different tools, right? When we try to push ourselves and try to predetermine, an outcome, if we become outcome oriented and push and we don't rest, sometimes that outcome oriented behavior is self-defeating. We actually don't get the outcome we desire, or the outcome we think we desire isn't really what we desire, doesn't really fulfill our intention. Does that make sense? Yeah. That's what I hear when I hear you share your journey. Yeah. Thanks, Christiane. Really nice to see you. Welcome home.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, who'd like to share next? Go ahead, Melanie.
Okay, so first we went to a waterfall, and then we just dove all the way down to the bottom and swam down. And then we were walking on all these rocks, but they were like polished in different colors. And we started going around and picking up all the red ones and putting it into the side of the lake. And at first I thought it was making a door, but it was making more like an altar. And then all the kind of business ideas and offering ideas and trainings I've done started to appear on the altar. And then little kind of lines were being drawn to each one, like it's time to figure out how these fit together. And then I sat down in front of the altar on a cushion and meditated for a while. And then like the great void kind of showed up behind the altar and stuff started coming out of it, like ideas. And then I just got the message that it's just time to start trying different things.
Okay, time for action.
Yeah.
And time for, it also sounds like it's time for synthesis as well.
Yeah.
Synthesizing the, various trainings and experiences that you've had and allowing that to come together, because that's what happens over time, right? Is we have our different life experiences. You know, you have the juice bar and the horses and all the other things that you've done in life that I don't know about. Okay, and the training that you've done with me and other trainings that you've done and all that stuff, it all combines in its unique way within you, just as all of our experiences combine uniquely within us. And then the output of that is your own unique contribution that you can make to the world. So, and part of that is trial and error. Oh, I'm going to try and do this. Oh, okay, well, am I good at that? Yeah, I'm good at that. Do I enjoy it? Nah, I don't really like it. Let me try something else. So a lot of times what we're looking for is the intersection of what we enjoy, what we're good at, and what there is a demand for, what people need, right? So if we're good at it and we enjoy it, but nobody needs it, then, you know, like I'm really good at and enjoy sitting in my hammock at the beach, but people don't really need me to do that. Okay, but I'm really good at it and I really enjoy it. Okay, but it's not a job because, you know, there isn't really anybody who's like, hey, Scott, I'll go pay you to sit in your hammock at the beach. You're really good at that.
That would be nice, though.
Right. Okay. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Thanks, Melanie. Thank you. Ryan, would you like to share while we're
sure
on your computer?
Yeah. So mine was I went down to the lower world and it was very dark. Everything was really dark, but my power animal was there pretty quick, and it was all centered around food. It was really weird. It was all about like the energy that it takes to make food and growing food and all that stuff. And then basically it showed me that, like, you know, we're just depleting the earth so bad, like from all of the way we're farming and stuff, that it's just really it's like really bad. We need to make a change like right away is basically what they were saying. And it was kind of like it's funny. It was kind of like the first thing I thought of was like, it was like Bambi, where I was like in the meadow and there was all these animals like trying to tell me like, hey, like you need to change this now, like right now. Because all the stuff that they're putting on the fields and farms and all that stuff, it's going downstream and it's killing everything below that farm, and then the next farm and the next farm and so on and so forth. So they were trying to really make that a point. And then also to, you know, teach everybody should be learning how to grow their own food in small community farms and like all of that stuff, because then we don't have to depend on all these larger farms to poison us, basically.
Yes, 100%. And not only is it polluting downstream, it's also oftentimes the chemical agricultural inputs are going into the groundwater. So it's not just what's downstream, it's also what percolates down into the aquifer. And some of this stuff is, you know, long-lived, right? And the effects of it won't be seen until our children try to have children. And that's scary, right? Because it's mutagenic that affects, you know, young women, young girls, prepubescent girls. And then when they develop into adults of childbearing age, they are have higher incidences of birth defects and things like that. So yeah, it's a huge issue the way chemical agriculture is done. It's horrible, and the topsoil is being depleted, and it doesn't have to be that way. The technology is already there to restore the soil. The technology is already there to do it all organically and through permaculture practices, and not just lip service organic to get a higher price, but truly restorative agriculture. And it's important to understand, and maybe we don't have this frame of reference as modern Westerners, but traditionally in indigenous cultures, or in many indigenous cultures, humans were seen as helping the web of life, not harming the web of life, right? So in other words, if I'm going to be harvesting some buffalo from a buffalo herd, I'm doing it in a way that keeps the herd in balance. I'm not just indiscriminately taking so much because I'm greedy, right? When I'm harvesting wood from a forest because I need wood for either a building or a weapon or a tool, I'm mindful and I pick the tree or trees that need to be harvested in a way that actually support the health and vitality of the forest, rather than, oh, this is the biggest, tallest, straightest tree, and who cares what happens, or we'll pick 10 of them and only use 3. Right? That's not how it's supposed to be done. And so what you're talking about there is a very important part of us stepping back into our roles of caretakers of the web of life. And if you can find a way to help to model or to support people who do model that type of farming, that type of food production, where it is not just not harming the earth, but actually regenerative to the earth, regenerative to the topsoil, that's really important. That's really, really important. So you guys have both been to my home, and that lot was all buffalo grass and halekoa when I bought it. Okay, and it's a jungle, right? And it's a small lot, but it's a jungle. It's a little mini food forest on there. And all those trees that produce that food also drop a ton of leaves. And those leaves become topsoil. So that soil, even though it's only a little bit of like a third of an acre, that soil and that its own has been regenerated. The spirit of the land is back and the soil health is back. Now we want to be able to scale that up into larger scales. And so that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Ryan. It's really important. Okay, were you going to say something else, Bill? Who'd like to share next? I think we have Noelle, Ia, Beverly. Any of you ladies like to share?
Hi, I can share.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, you keep trying to unmute yourself, and then you can share when you get it. Okay, go ahead, Noelle.
Does someone else want to share?
No, she's just having troubling with her audio, so you go ahead.
Okay, cool. So I just want to say that who was the man who just shared? What was his name?
Ryan.
Yes, Ryan. There's something that came in my journey that really speaks to what you're saying. So I'll come back around to that, but I'll just say, yes, I went through the ocean. I met my spirit animal. It took me a while to kind of calm down. So energetically calm down from the day. So the first animal I saw was sort of like, you're not ready yet. Like, you need to chill. So I laid in the ocean floor next to a fish, and then went to see my power animal, which is a spider. And she was saying that the first feeling I got when it came to putting intention into action was healing my womb space. So healing sort of like my second chakra area, womb space, for some reason. And there was a lot of sort of this feeling of trusting myself, getting back my creativity, a lot of just warmth in that area of my body. And it was almost it's that needs to happen first before you even do anything. And then, so that was really nice. I laid there for a while. And then the only other direction I got was to reach out, to start spreading out my energy a little bit more, to start connecting with people and to really reach out and spread out, I guess is the message that I got. And then when I was asking so I wanted more clarity around it. And so there are all of these ideas that I've had in my head also about healing the planet, nature, and healing people. And so there are all these sort of ideas that came into my mind, but I think they were more of my ego trying to come up with something that's familiar. So I just left the journey just without a lot of clarity, other than healing my self-doubt, I think, is the most important thing that I got from it. However, one of the images that popped in my mind was this photo that I have about nature. And I just want to say it's a quote from a scientist that said, I used to think the top environmental problems were biodiversity loss, ecosystem collapse, and climate change. But really what it is like greed and corruption and things that are happening in the hearts of men. And he's like, scientists can't change that. And I was like, whoa. So like after Ryan was talking, I went back to my photos to find that it was like I don't know, like a workshop or something that I took a screenshot of, and I have it. I can share with the group if you want. But yeah, I was like, wow, that's really resonant, because that came up in my journey, just like that vision image.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's it's true. It's true. We have to heal on the spirit level first. Right? We have to heal our spirits, and then everything else takes care of itself. Right? Because then our intention will move us forward. I also want to speak to what you said about personal healing in your womb space and the lower dantian, right?
Yeah.
So, you mentioned you're an acupuncturist, so I'm sure you know this, that's the storehouse of Jing, right? And that your kidney chi, if it's depleted, you cannot create you cannot effectively act in the world with depleted kidney chi. So the rest and the self-healing is probably the most important thing, because you won't be able to translate your intentions to action if you don't have the life force energy available to do so. And that's part of how I talk about this in a course that I teach called Cultivating the Energy Body, where what happens a lot of times is people will say, oh, okay, we're going to bring the chi up, or they'll say, we'll raise the kundalini, and they'll get people's chi up here into the head, into the shen, into the upper chakras, and open up the third eye. Well, when that happens, people become, first of all, imminently suggestible, which is not a good thing. Okay, you don't really want to be suggestible. Okay, second of all, suggestible is the opposite of discerning. Okay, and second of all, what happens is it's not sustainable, because they don't have the foundation of having the lower and middle dantian full. So what happens is you might get these insights, great insights, oh my God, but then you don't have the energy, you don't have the chi to sustain it, and it goes back down. Okay, and so you cannot translate intention to action unless your lower dantian is full. And then eventually, hopefully, your middle dantian begins to fill, so you can act more from a heart space. Okay, but if we're depleted, that's not going to happen. And just like if somebody's starving, they're not going to be donating to the food pantry. They're starving. They need to eat, right? And one of the things, part of my background is in as a Tai Chi instructor, as well as in shamanism, but I also have a background in outdoor education and leave no trace wilderness type of survival situations or camping situations. And one of the things that we say in the leave no trace ethic is there's 7 points of leave no trace, and the first is plan ahead and prepare. Now you'd think leave no trace would be about dispose of waste properly, don't leave campfire burns, watch where you're treading in environments, and that's all part of it. But the very first part is plan ahead and prepare. And the reason why they say plan ahead and prepare is the first part is because if you're planned ahead and you're prepared, you have the resources with you that you need, and you're going to be able to impact the environment less. If you're unplanned and you don't know what you're doing, you're going to be desperate, and then you're going to make a much greater impact on the environment. So this all ties into this cultivation in the lower dantian and restoring your life force energy there. That womb healing, that kidney chi.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Noelle, for sharing. Okay. Yeah, Bev or Lee, would you ladies like to share?
Yeah, I don't mind sharing. Or who wants to go first? I don't know who's next.
Either one is fine.
What's that? I can't hear.
I said
well,
whoever
we
wants
both
to.
open at the same time, so I don't know.
Oh, I mean, it's okay if you want to go first. It's all right.
But I was just gonna echo something that came from into my first time. The young lady who went before me, basically, I was led to a cave, and actually, I was at the door of the cave, and what came is my power animal, who is the hawk. And it was interesting, the hawk came down on the ground, and the hawk has been coming for the last several days, just coming down. And this time he came and just sat at the door and said that it's like coming down low. And that is need to go inside, need to come out the head, need to come down and be out of the head, come into the womb space. It's like woundedness, that we're trying to heal something without first healing that inner wound that's inside ourselves, that when that inner wound heals, that we won't have to worry about what it is, how our gift or how our medicine will help heal the earth. But what stands in the way of that is this, the woundedness, this, that we're afraid to go into our own wombs and heal them first, that we're too much in the head. It's like drop down. And he was just like, almost like bowing, we gotta come down. You gotta come down into this space, out of the head space. Like just, and when we was coming out of the journey, it was like he was just bowing, like coming down. And I could literally feel that energy pumping through my stomach, like coming down into that space. And it felt like grief to me. It felt really like grief, like just almost like a bow into.
Mm-hmm.
And so it felt pretty emotional, an emotional charge, like open, create space. That was the last thing. Open the space, create space.
Mm-hmm.
That was the last thing I got.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's really, really beautiful. And it's also really important what you're sharing about the need for us to heal our own wounds before we can be effective in translating from intention to action. Because if we have our wounds hanging out there in a certain way, that makes us vulnerable. And unfortunately, there are parasitic forces and forces in the world and in the spirit world as well that do not share the same objectives, have a different agenda. And that agenda is not to caretake and help the web of life, but actually to have the greed over the web of life and use it as a basically food. And our wounds is what makes us vulnerable to these type of parasitic energies. So it's very important that we do that healing before we put ourselves out there, because other forces will look towards our vulnerabilities as a way to stop us. And this is why those of you who have taken the courses with me, who are on this call or are listening on the video, you know that after we do the fundamentals, which is gaining our facility at journeying, the next two things we focus on are cultivating the energy body and shamanic self-mastery and self-protection. Before we go into the healing work, we do the self-healing work, because of exactly what you said, Ia, of we need to heal our own personal wounds first. That way we're strong enough to be able to get out and handle those types of parasitic or negative forces that will undercut the positive work that we want to do. I really appreciate you sharing that, and the hawk sharing that also. Yeah. Thank you, Beverly.
So I'm guessing maybe because it was my first time, I had a little bit more difficulty connecting. but I was experiencing multiple different animals at first. So I think the first time I was getting like a tiger, and then I was getting a panther, and then a snake, and then eventually it was like a white tiger. Because you mentioned power animal, but that's really what stuck out to me. You know, I did ask how to turn my intention into action, but I guess I was being blocked by my own thoughts. And the more you went with the wooden chops, the more I felt like my block was being removed. And I was able to receive a vision regarding how to move forward with like finances, because for me, that's really a big concern at this moment, considering I'm an expecting first time mother. And I also was being shown how to nurture. So, you know, maybe that was like my response to nurture myself and my baby. It's funny too, because while you were making the sounds, my baby was moving a whole lot too to the sound. But yeah, this was my first time doing this sort of journey, so I did struggle a little bit. I did thank my animal, power animal, when we got to the closing, and I think something else that stuck out to me was like the flashing of lights, which I have experienced before in like other meditations, but yeah, that's what I got out of it.
Yeah, thank you, Beverly. Thanks for sharing that. And you know, go on the website. There is that full. It's a 90-minute tutorial on journeying, so it's free. You can just go and watch it on YouTube. And then there's also a free recording of me drumming that you can use. And yeah, just continue to journey on your own, and you know, strengthen that connection that you have. And it's very cute that your soon-to-be child was moving to the rhythm.
He was totally vibing, yeah.
Yeah. When my daughter was in the womb, I used to tap on her mom's belly, and I go, get up, booty-ga, get up, booty-ga, get up, booty-ga, right? Just basic rhythms. And she would kick back on the pulse. She'd be like, boom, 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 boom. You could see her little foot in the womb kicking back in time.
Yeah.
It was really fun. I mean, that was how we communicated when, you know, from the time she was about, 5 months pregnant until her birth. I would communicate to her in the womb that way, as well as, psychically and through journeys. But I'd like tap to her and she would kick back. And so that was really, when he said that just brought a really big smile on my face. So thank you for sharing that.
Of course. I think it's interesting that even though they're in the womb still, they could like connect to us on the outside world.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah. When the first time that the midwife came over to try and listen with an ultrasound on for the baby inside the womb, baby didn't like it, and she kicked at the ultrasound. And
they never like it. Yeah.
She kicked it away and swam to the other side. And so the midwife was like, I'll just listen with a stethoscope then for the heartbeat. We can do this another way. She was very strong. Oh, I don't like that. Anyway, so thank you all very much for joining us today. I will share very briefly about my own journey. And my own journey was guidance about the importance of food as well, and sustainable food production, and to be very strong within that, both in my consuming habits, which I already am quite strong in that, but also in other areas of my life to help just share that awareness about how important and how urgent that is. So, Ryan, you were very clear about not only is it important, we all know it's important, but Ryan was very clear about the urgency of that situation for us, and to, insist in anything that I'm involved with, if I'm involved with it on a, principle or financial level, that if it involves food, that any food has to be done, that we have to move towards that objective, and that has to be part of the goal, part of the plan, and part of the action. And the other guidance that I received was to be discerning about how I spend my energy. That we all have, we channel infinite energy through the universe, but we do have a finite amount of time in which to spend that energy. And so to be extremely mindful about how I spend my time and energy, and to be very focused and strategic when I'm applying myself in those ways, as well as taking time off. That's also strategic, right? Taking time off is I need to rest, I need to heal myself, I need to recover my life force energy, my kidney chi, things like that. But when I'm in work mode, to be very focused and very discerning about making sure that the contributions that I have to make are being made in the most impactful and efficient way. Like when I do sessions now, I pretty much work on people who want to use that for their own, to also make a contribution to the world, so that I'm helping, not just helping one individual, but I'm helping an individual who wants to help many individuals. So then the ripples spread out. So anyway, those were the guidances that I received. And I really appreciate everybody taking the time today to being here on the call with us. You spent your time and energy for a very beautiful cause, and I really appreciate that. So thank you, everybody. Okay. And we'll look forward to seeing you guys next time. Thank you.